Welcome to the Voice of Retail. I'm your host, Michael LeBlanc. This podcast is brought to you in conjunction with Retail Council of Canada. On this very special episode, I'm thrilled to be sharing an excerpt from my The Food Professor podcast with Dr. Sylvain Charlebois. Our very special guest is Carl Goyette, President and CEO of Guru Organic Energy. Based in Quebec, Guru is succeeding in the highly competitive energy drink category with a significant share of space in the convenience store, health store, and grocery store categories. Carl shares his backstory from enjoying the brand as a consumer to rising to the CEO and shares lessons in innovation, differentiation, and competition in a global category that continues to thrive.
Well, we have a special guest joining us today, Carl Goyette, President and CEO of Guru. I've seen him on social media, on television. I've heard him on radio, and I was just so looking forward to talk to him today. So, Carl, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you for the invitation. Happy to be here.
So to start things off, tell us about yourself, your background, and tell us more about the brand Guru itself, how you became an entrepreneur, basically.
Sylvain, I come from a small town that you know very well, Farnham.
Yep, absolutely.
Hey, we both come from the same.
You know what, Carl? I forgot to tell Michael that we're both from the same town. Yeah.
So that's a funny story, but yeah, I come from an entrepreneurial family in small town Quebec, in Farnham, and was always very clear for me that I would be in business, and so normal path. I went to CEGEP and then went to business in business in university. When I graduated, I started a career in CPG, so really sales and marketing in a few organizations. But I always had that entrepreneurial spirit coming from this background, I guess, and my family being entrepreneurs. And in 2013, I met the guys at Guru just over a coffee. And there was a clear opportunity for me to join as VP of Sales and Marketing, but also to become a significant shareholder.
And when did Guru start?
Started in 1999, right?
1999.
I was still in university back then. But the fun fact is I was always a fan. I was a fan from day one. Like I like to say, and this is a pure, true story. I built my career on Guru. Every time I would have an important meeting or I had a challenge, I would go and grab a Guru, and at some point it became almost like a habit where if I didn't have my Guru, I thought the meeting or the challenge wouldn't go well. So when I met the guys at Guru, it felt really natural. Remortgaged my house and pretty much invested all my savings in this business, which I believe had tremendous potential. So that's kind of on me. The more interesting story is clearly the Guru story, right? As we just discussed, Sylvain. It started in 1999, right? And it started with the founders being college friends, and at some point one of them was running nightclubs.
Yeah, the origin of the story, the Guru story, seems to be rooted in the rave community, or is it really linked to adventure travel? How would you describe Guru's origins, essentially?
It really did. It did start in the nightclubs, but it was never kind of designed for nightclubs. Like, I have to tell you the story, but the real inspiration is a trend that was happening in the 90s. This trend was called the smart drinks. Not sure if you were out in clubs in the 90s, Sylvain, but there's a big trend.
We were, absolutely.
Yeah, that's it. So there was a few nightclubs that were serving. They started in New York and in California, and then it became very popular in Montreal. And the guys were basically blending natural ingredients like we use today in Guru, but for hydration and energy in the nightclubs, mainly in after hours, right? So that's probably where you got the rave community. So after 3 a.m., when the bars in Montreal couldn't serve any alcohol, they would serve the patrons some smart drinks, right? So keep in mind, energy drinks in 1999 really didn't exist, right? Red Bull was not even launched in Canada. It was becoming more popular in Europe. But it was being made with artificial ingredients. So the founders said, well, we like the idea of an energy drink. We like the popularity of the smart drinks, but we'd like to offer this in a ready-to-drink format, right? Always being natural. From day one, the product was always natural, but it wasn't marketed as a natural organic product from the.
That's right.
beginning.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. I never associated Guru initially with the natural movement or using natural ingredients, because it was just not marketed that way.
No, never. Probably for the right reasons. I wasn't part of the business back then, right? But I think they first needed to build the energy drink category, right? So most of the marketing was being done around energy, right? And where on consumption occasions and what it does and the functionality of the product. Much less on the natural and the healthy alternative to artificial energy drinks.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how they started. Looking back, you say, well, they could have dialed up the natural aspect maybe a little bit more, but the industry did not exist back then, right? And they were obviously inspired by some other brands and what other brands were doing. And this is really with the change that, I guess I made with the team when I joined. Right? I saw this big opportunity for a better for you alternative to artificial energy drinks, right? Offering a natural. And this is where really I think the pivot or the repositioning of the business and the brand started.
Right. You're in a very competitive space. I mean, let's face it, it's super competitive, but you seem to be doing very well. How would you describe your distribution strategy as a company? And I mean, we can buy your products pretty much everywhere. It's very accessible. How do you describe your approach versus your competitors?
I think we're very different from our competitors, but from a distribution point of view, we are very similar because we cater to the same occasions. Right? There are a few occasions in energy drink consumptions that you need to be there, and that's why you're absolutely right. If I'm glad your perception is that we're everywhere, because that's the goal, right? In industry terms, we call it omni-channel. So whether it's convenience stores, which is the main channel, right? Convenience stores represent over 70% of the sales in the industry, right? Grocery and drug play a role, not exactly the same role as convenience, and increasingly online plays a role as well, for not so much for the occasional consumers, or not so much for the impulse buy, obviously, but very much for the loyal, regular consumers, especially as now more of them are working from home, right? The consumers are more the educated professional, the white collars working from home very often, and they want the afternoon pick-me-up, for example, which is a huge occasion for Guru.
In 2015, Carl, I actually had an opportunity to live in Innsbruck for a year with my family. I was a visiting scholar at the University of Innsbruck, which is actually half an hour away from Red Bull's head office. And so I had an opportunity to visit the head office. I was very impressed by their marketing approach. They spend a lot of money on marketing, as you know, and sponsorships, and positioning their products as an energy drink, as a leader in the market. How do you compete against a product like that?
Well, that's it. We don't compete.
You're just different.
The short answer.
Very carefully.
The short answer is to be very different. And you said it yourself. It's an extremely competitive industry, and the worst thing that we could do is try to copy them. Right? There are so many brands who just tried to do the exact same thing that Red Bull did. Right? And Red Bull did they built an outstanding brand, but it has first it has very different ingredients versus Guru. And it has a very different brand positioning. And I think in our industry, we've learned, because we've been around for a long time, that it's not enough to only have a great product. You have to have a great brand, and we are building a brand. In order to do that, we have to be very different. There's no point in trying to do exactly what Red Bull has done. There are consumers who actually reject what the brand positioning of Red Bull is.
Basically they created a category, but now it's up to innovators like yourself to find your own position. And now one thing you do a little different, I think, than many is this direct selling piece. I want to just talk about that and spend a bit of time on that. So, how do you pull that together? As you said, your C-stores, convenience stores, probably 70% of your consumption. I bought my Guru on Amazon, had it shipped. You sell direct. You've got subscription services. So how do you talk a little bit about how you merge the wholesale and retail elements of your business? I mean, you started in sales, so you would know the conversation with the big customers. How do you create that 1 + 1 = 3? A lot of brands are trying to figure this out. How do you approach it?
I'd say it was maybe we were a little bit ahead of the game because we've been active online for a very long time, because we knew from consumer insights that our consumers actually, the Guru consumer is, as we mentioned, a lot more educated, a lot more professional, and they are kind of the forefront of technology. So even years ago, they were shopping online. We knew that. So it started earlier. I would say now that we are now more in a post-pandemic phase, everybody has realized that this omni-channel is essential, even in CPG, right? Even retailers are accepting that retail is not the only way to buy CPG. For us, a case of Guru is a little bit more expensive. It makes sense. Shipping costs are high, but the margins are good. So it makes sense in our business. It doesn't make sense in all the beverage categories. For example, if you're selling cases of water at $3.99, there's no way you're going to be able to pay shipping. So it works in the energy drink category. So I think that's the first point. The other point on why I think we've been successful is we've been smart in not trying to compete with retail, right? Although the margins are great, we are very careful in pricing to make sure that the website doesn't compete with retail. Actually, consumers sometimes complain.
You still need to offer a good value proposition, right? I mean, to be viable, other than just being a great marketing technique, to be actually viable and you and I know that of course you make more margin selling direct, but you have more costs, right? You've got to build the volume, which is not easy.
Costs,
right?
Shipping costs are high.
Yeah.
So as long as you're not competing with selling cheaper than retail, right? Because in theory, the consumer gets more value. They get a case delivered straight to their door.
Yeah.
It's convenience. They don't need to carry it. So we're okay with the consumers paying a little bit more than if they were buying at retail. Obviously, the consumers would love to pay less.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes they don't understand why it's more expensive on our website versus buying at retail. But for us,
it's still worth your while, because I've been talking to brands who, are starting to question the economics, the unit economics behind what they do. Because as you know, it's not like, shipping is one cost, but you also have to build audience. Like you've got, to make it viable, you've got to build not more than just organic people stopping by the website, right? You got to build, you got to put a lot of people effort, smart people, as you said, behind it, right? So it's still worth a while for you. Still a good strategy.
But you get a double benefit, right? Because as you are advertising online, we call it top of funnel, where we're building awareness and consideration for the brand. You have two opportunities to convert, right? Your consumers can decide to buy on your own website, but very often we know that they see our ads online and then they go buy it at the convenience store.
You create a habit, yeah.
That's it. So they first, from a trial perspective, somebody who's never tried a Guru, will they put $48.99 on a case of 24? That's a bit of more of a stretch, right? Yeah. But they might buy a can, or we might sample them somewhere in a marketing event, whatever, and then they love the product. Buy it online, deliver straight to their door.
It's interesting because my path, we all talk about consumer paths. I didn't know the brand. I'm not an energy drink customer, but we're interviewing, so I always like to kind of try the product. I found you on Amazon, and you sell. I think it was a mixed pack of like a sampler pack, 4 units. I'm a Prime member, so it was shipped to my door for free. And something you said resonated with me yesterday. I was hosting a virtual session all afternoon, so you got to have a lot of energy and you got to be up. And I'm moderating panels and stuff. You have to do that twice as much as Sylvain knows when you're in front of a camera versus people.
Almost every day.
And I cracked the code. I poured this giant drink bottle filled with ice and a guru, and it was amazing. It lasted the whole session. So I just wanted to say, it was a great experience. And
and there's no doubt it works, right? Like that's the beauty with this, right?
Yeah.
It does have the functionality and it does give you energy.
Yeah.
So this, many products.
And Michael, you had a good sleep, Michael, last night? You slept well?
Once I got there, yes. Once I got there, just like a couple of coffees.
But I'm just curious, Carl, like in terms of demographics, I mean, we're both over 50. I mean, are a lot of people actually buy drinks, Guru, in like, for
yes,
when you look at Xers and boomers, are these generations very important for your brain?
Not the boomers. The core generation is the millennials.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And we tend to divide, when you look at insights, you divide the older millennials and the younger millennials, and then now the Gen Zs, right, which are the up and coming. The older millennials tend to be moving faster towards better for you, right? The older millennials are really the generation that's driving better for you. And that's not just in energy drinks. It's in the whole food categories, because older millennials they're getting married, they're starting to have babies, and they're adopting healthier habits. So older millennials are a prime target for us. But as the industry is maturing, some older people are also consuming, right?
Is it an alternative for them to a coffee?
Absolutely.
Is that why they're getting into the category?
Absolutely. Yeah. But the millennials are much more receptive to energy drinks, right? Older generations have seen the media around why, there's a lot of stigma. Right? There's a lot of stigma around energy drinks. And that stigma is probably the biggest opportunity for us, because we changed that stigma, right?
Because that stigma is not attached to the brand Guru as much as with other brands, correct?
Not once you know the brand, but that's the marketing challenge.
It's attached to the category.
It's just like we're trying to reject as many category codes as we can, but we have to adopt some, right? It's still sold in a small can. It's still sold in convenience stores. It's still an energy drink. We're not trying to be anything else than an energy drink. But it's the better for you, healthy energy drink, and that marketing message is always a challenge to push across. Right?
Last couple of questions for you, and then I'll pass the mic back to Sylvain to bring us home. But I was looking at your board and your advisors. You got the who's who of Quebec business. Talk about how you wrangled that such an esteemed group of investors and board members. Like, talk about how you operate it. I mean, it's a wonderful Quebec-based business, so. We're thrilled to see your success, but talk about how that's grown for you.
Yeah, it's funny. I never thought about it this way, but I think the key point is there are some how we attracted these people. I guess the number one reason would be the challenge. Right? We talked about the industry. We talked about the mission at Guru to really transform this industry. So this mission and challenge speaks to a lot of people. So I think that's probably the one reason why they were attracted to the challenge. The second piece is, I would suspect, is I'm proud to say our business and our people and the founders, myself, have the highest standards of authenticity and integrity. And I like to believe that we have a very good reputation. So when we approach these people, they not only like the challenge, but they also wanted to work with us. Then the rest is, when we decided to go public a year and a half ago, right, to accelerate our business, there are certain, as you know, there are certain guidelines and guardrails that you need to put in place, and putting together a board with a certain set of experience was also a component to this. So we looked, what's important for me to have a marketing person. We needed a head of an audit committee, but I also wanted a head of audit committee that understands convenience stores, distribution, retail.
You got someone from Couche-Tard. That's a good. Yeah,
exactly. So we got someone from Couche-Tard. We had someone who and then we had someone who was the head of the TSX, right, from a regulator.
I guess my point there was, like, the people on your board have got a lot of choices of boards to be on. And so, congratulations. I mean, they could choose. Well, they could choose where.
No, it's worked out extremely well. It's extremely well. The board is very engaged. We spend obviously a lot of time together on strategy, and it's been great. right? To be surrounded with such a wealth of experience and debate the strategy.
That's great. No, I mean, you are a leader of a very, very strong brand in Quebec and across the country. And I'm just wondering, what's next for Guru? What are your plans for the future at this point?
Oh, well, it's obviously we're very ambitious, and the mission to transform this industry is a huge challenge. It's a $15 billion industry that we really believe will change in the next decade, and that it's going to change for the good. So that's really what the focus is going to be, right? So I can speak to two things. I can speak to obviously the products and also the markets. The products are, product innovation is, I'd say we can't reveal all our secrets, but the past is probably a good predictor for the future. If you look at what we've done, right? We've been very focused on energy drinks. Mm-hmm. That's something that we've done. We've been focused on being very different from our competitors in terms of ingredients, and we've been very innovative in terms of, instead of launching flavors, right, which is the key trend in the industry, where everybody is launching a new candy flavor, or we launched new plants, right, because we believe that energy should come from nature and it should come from plants. So we're going to continue doing that from a product perspective. The Mother Nature has offered us so many great ingredients that can provide energy and focus to consumers that expect more on that front. From markets, I'd say we're not going to be innovating that much from a market's point of view. The North American industry is a $15 billion industry. We discussed the omni-channel strategy. So it's for us, there are a lot of opportunities, and we need to be very, very focused. We're very clear on the strategy, which is focused on continuing to grow Quebec, expanding our brand in Ontario and West and Atlantic, obviously in Canada, but also being focused in California, and the US. So this is the markets that we're going to be focused on in the short term.
And I haven't looked, but can we buy Guru drinks where I am right now in Tampa Bay, Florida?
Yes.
I will look
any
for
Whole Foods. Any Whole Foods would carry our products, or in any natural food stores. It will be in some conventional groceries. For example, you might find it in CVS. You might find it in Rite Aid. You might find it in Publix. But your sure bet in Tampa is Whole Foods.
Is Whole Foods. Excellent.
Yeah.
I will look for it. Absolutely. Listen, Carl, thank you so much for joining us on the Food Professor podcast as a fellow former citizen of Farnham. I assume you don't live in Farnham anymore.
No, I don't.
When did you leave Farnham? I'm just curious.
For school, when I went to university.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same for me.
Yeah,
Great community, Farnham. So for people listening in who wouldn't know where Farnham is, it's about 1 hour south of Montreal. As soon as you start smelling manure, you're home.
Well, let me tell you from my perspective, the sons of Farnham have done well. So congratulations.
The Cal Goyette, President and CEO of Guru, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning into this special episode of The Voice of Retail. If you haven't already, be sure and click and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so new episodes will land automatically twice a week. And check out my other retail industry media properties, the Remarkable Retail Podcast, Conversations with Commerce Next Podcast, and the Food Professor Podcast with Dr. Sylvain Charlebois. Last but not least, if you're into barbecue, check out my all-new YouTube barbecue show, Last Request Barbecue, with new episodes each and every week. I'm your host, Michael LeBlanc, president of Emmy LeBlanc Company and Maven Media. And if you're looking for more content or want to chat, follow me on LinkedIn or visit my website at emmyleblanc.co. Have a safe week, everyone.